No, I don't think they are. So, Christmas with You. Typical sort of Hallmark style Christmas movie, right? At least that's what the trailer makes it seem like. We have a successful pop star, a famous musician who's had a long career, starting to feel burnt out, starting to feel uninspired. So she's scrolling through some fan content, sees a young teenager. It sounds like a song that she had really helped her move on from losing her mother. So she decides, I'll go surprise this fan. Let me go meet her. And hopes that it will, in some way, get her inspired to continue creating.
I really need to connect with my fans right now. I mean, at least they still think I'm relevant.
But of course, it's a romance movie, so naturally, she's gonna fall in love with the kid's dad. I have a lot to say about this, but it's the internet, so let's just do a numbered list. Number one, first impressions. So right off the bat, we have this absolute fire scene. We're seeing this performance. Angelina's going really hard. We have this fast-paced, intense song in the background. The song's really good. You want more.
Tell me what you want conmigo. I let you choose, not the obligo.
The song and the shots that follow it leave us absolutely ready to believe that Angelina is this stressed out star who's walking a fine line with her fame, with everyone watching her all the time, and you start off really on her side. And unfortunately, it's pretty much downhill from there. But then we skip over to Christina, this 14, 15-year-old girl, and the first thing Christina does in this movie is talk about TikTok and call her dad old because he doesn't really like social media, which always struck me as really strange. Who talks to their dad like that? Talk to them like that? But the point is, the dad doesn't really like social media. He's more introverted, a little more reclusive. The kid thinks Angelina is the best thing in the world. So then we go back to Angelina's world. She has this interview with this young reporter who looks like she's like 20 or so. And she says, oh, I've been listening to you since before I was born. You're really old. Hey, those TikToks you posted, those are really outdated. Mentioning TikTok twice in the first like 10 minutes of the movie. But she basically calls her cringe and uses the word totes because apparently none of the writers have ever interacted with anyone under 35. And that's pretty bad given they're not exactly marketing this movie toward older people. But the point is, oh, the media sees her as old. The media sees her as a has-been. Whatever. So then we go back to Christina's perspective and she is recording herself dancing on a bed, singing, jumping around like a little kid. And it seems much too young for how old she's supposed to be. Her quinceañera is coming up, and so clearly she's supposed to be around 15. And she kind of acts like a 10 or 11-year-old, which is a theme I noticed with pretty much all the kid actors here. They seem to be directed pretty poorly, which sucks because I feel like this is the kind of movie teenagers might be really interested in, and then they're pretty immediately condescended towards. But back to Angelina. She has this ex-boyfriend she's pretending to still date because he, Ricardo, is an actor and they're doing really well on Instagram because of their fake maintained relationship. So she feels like she has to keep going. He is an incredibly vain and also just really weird and creepy man. But that's fine because she's gonna meet some hometown sweetheart, right? And he's gonna be the foil character. It all makes perfect sense. Except that's not what happens. And he also seems really young. He looks like he's maybe 30, and that kind of makes her seem young by equivalence. If this is who she's dating, obviously she's that young too. She's not that old. Anyways, her manager Mo gets a call from the label and says, hey, we have the gala next week. Don't we have any interesting music coming from Angelina? What do we have to work with? And Mo promises the label a hit by basically next week. Angelina needs to get inspired and she can't. So she decides, I'm gonna go meet that young fan. I'm gonna do it. And here's where I'd like to get into the next thing that I really didn't like. Number 2, the characters. They are weird. They don't make any sense and they're really weird. Ricardo, the ex-boyfriend, he is really weird. That's fine because he can be the foil character, right? He's gonna be an exaggerated version of obsession with fame and money and whatever because she is gonna learn not to be like that, right? She's gonna meet a man who's nothing like that. But let's talk about Angelina. So we're meant to believe that she is some has-been whose claim to fame is outdated. To make herself feel good, she can just scroll through fan pages, which are apparently really active, which doesn't really check out for an old star whose music isn't new or coming out anymore, whose last album came out like 7 or 8 years ago. That's just not really how that works. And her fans Well, the fan she interacts with is barely 15. She's really young. So clearly she still resonates with young people. But whatever, sure, she's old. But speaking of old, let's talk about Abuela. Abuela is the weirdest character, and I feel the need to preface this by saying grandparents are not easy characters to mess up. They just need some sort of expression of love and care, such as the generic, they cook for their family and they're a little bit pushy. But instead, they make her weird. And it's uncomfortable to watch.
Yo soy Frida. Oh, Frida, bienvenida.
It's even to the extent that later in the movie, when she gives advice to her son about his romantic problems, it's sort of undermined. Like, this woman is weird and not in a way that is, like, inspiring in any way. Think of, like, the grandmother in Moana.
I'm the village crazy lady. That's my job.
Like, she's weird, but it makes sense for Moana's arc that she would look up to her. But no, she's just weird. So why is she there? Why did she do that?
Who wants a shot?
And she's really obsessed with telenovelas, which is fine. It's actually kind of funny. But then when she meets Ricardo, who acts in one of her favorite shows, she's super creepy. She's really weird. She's obsessed with him, even though she's like 5 decades older than him.
Ricardo, you're alive.
Hey! Hey, gracias. Muy bien, muy bien.
Anyways, another point that I really didn't like, it was really just baffling, was I guess Angelina has an eating disorder. At one point, she is really stressed and she grabs some celery, but instead of just grabbing a celery stick and eating it, she has like a whole bowl of celery. And that would be fine. It would even just be a fun little quirky thing. Except later, when she's a lot more stressed, she says she is going to go on a lettuce diet in preparation for the gala.
Mo. Huh? The transition from arugula to spring mix makes her a week.
Okay.
That line was really funny. But then Mo sort of clears out the room and sits her down and says, okay, what's going on here? And that implies that these crash diets are something that she does when she's stressed, which is definitely disordered eating. Okay, so she has an eating disorder. That's not necessarily a bad thing to put in a movie, but you address it, right? Surely that's not just supposed to be some quirky, cute character trait, which just, again, makes me wonder if any of the writers were under 40, because who looks at those behaviors and thinks that they're funny or relatable? They're not. The worst part is that Angelina is invited to dinner with Christina's family, and so she meets Miguel and they sort of hit it off. They're writing a song together and all that stuff. But then Abuela serves food, which was kind of weird because Miguel cooked it. But then Abuela obviously gets really offended when Angelina is only eating beans, like that's normal, and then she just brushes it off like, well, it's a necessary evil. So in theory, Angelina's Mexican and this family is Mexican. Why did she think this would fly in a Mexican household?
Dale, Pocho.
Oh, no, gracias, señora, estoy bien.
Dale, okay, ¿cómo que no? Dale.
Okay,
Dale.
well, just un poquitito, like
Un
just a
poquitito
little.
nomás,
Yeah.
un poquitito.
Okay, that's good.
Más así.
Thank you.
And so, of course, she appeases Abuela. She eats a little bit and saves the interaction by saying, oh, this is so good. It reminds me of home and all this. But she doesn't actually address the deeper issue of, maybe I should eat food that's good because it's good. And maybe this can be an arc for her. But no, it's not. It's just never addressed again. They just leave it in the movie. That's it. Number 4, okay, I guess we have to talk about the love interest. I don't want to. Miguel is our love interest, and I did not see the romance coming because, first of all, I know she's supposed to be old, but he looks at least a decade older than her, and that's fine, but we never see her without a lot of makeup, so there's no sense of, oh, she's putting on this facade of looking younger, but actually they're the same age. Like, no, he just looks really old. There's even a scene where he falls asleep on the couch, which is the most stereotypical old man thing that you can possibly do. I will say he's a convincingly good father. He and Christina seem to have a good dynamic. They seem to trust each other a lot, which is nice, but there's just no chemistry. And they also have nothing in common. He's reclusive, he doesn't like social media, he doesn't really like that his daughter uses it so much, but of course he allows her to. Then we have Angelina, who's the complete opposite, whose career depends on social media, at least as far as she sees it. That could be fine, because maybe he is going to show her that numbers on social media don't really matter, and she shouldn't fake a relationship with someone she doesn't love, and she should be more true to herself. She should connect with her roots. Maybe since they share a culture, they'll connect in that way. But that's not what happens. Okay, maybe he will change. Maybe he will come out of his shell. He's a music teacher. Maybe instead of resisting being a performer, he'll start to embrace that more. Maybe he'll go into producing since they're writing a song together and it's going well. But no, that doesn't happen either. So how are they together? She doesn't seem to really care about anything he does except play the piano. More than anything, it feels like the actors don't have the chemistry to pull this off. Up next, number 5. The manager, Mo, is extraordinarily bad at her job. So in that scene where Mo promises the label a new song by next week, Angelina is like, why does this matter so much? So you're telling me that the label is so frustrated with Angelina that they're ready to drop her after supposedly all these years, and Mo just didn't tell her that? She just didn't think that that was important to mention? How is that even possible? Why did Mo delay that conversation? That makes no sense. And later there's a scene where the man from the label is telling Angelina that she's been replaced on the cover of a magazine by a younger, new artist. Mo is sort of listening from afar, looking really offended, just giving dramatic looks at the camera, because that's just apparently what a sidekick does. I really don't get it. And it doesn't make any sense. She should step forward. She should try to negotiate that conversation. She should ask, why wasn't I given a heads up about this? Is there anything else we can do to get the promotion that we've been looking for? She does nothing. She just stands there looking offended with Angelina, like she's not her manager, but her friend. And okay, so maybe she's her manager because she's her friend. Maybe Angelina really wants someone who can push her. It sounds like they're pretty close, right? Mo sort of gives her pep talks throughout. Okay, fine. But she's not a good friend either. She just lets Angelina have an eating disorder and doesn't do anything with it. Just rolls her eyes and says, oh, you know, pop stars with their eating only lettuce, that's normal, I guess. Someone of Angelina's caliber should have like a whole team of managers, but she just has this one incompetent lady. And by the end, it really feels like she's not even there to be a manager. She's not there to be a character. She is there for the same reason that all the Disney princesses have little animal sidekicks, so that they can say their thoughts out loud without just monologuing at the camera. Anyways, the song with Miguel is going well. They like the sound of it, and so Angelina decides to invite Miguel and Christina to the upcoming gala where she is going to perform this song, and hopefully the song will do well. And in turn, Miguel and Christina invite her to Christina's quinceañera. So of course Angelina gets involved in the preparations for the quince. This was actually one of the better sequences in the movie. They're getting ready for the quince, they're trying to work out their choreo, and they can't quite figure it out, so Angelina sort of shows them what they can do, and she does it all in heels, and she moves really well, and it's pretty impressive. Of course, she does start off by suggesting that they twerk a lot, and Miguel is like, no, they're way too young for that, which, again, makes you wonder, what do these two have in common? So at the gala, before Angelina performs her song, the man from the label says that actually that SNL gig she had lined up, she's not going to be able to do, and the younger artist Cherry is going to do it because she's just had more success recently. When the song does well, the man from the label says, actually, maybe you can have that SNL gig. And then kicks out the younger girl. And again, they have these conversations without the manager present, but presumably they decided this with the manager. But then why would the manager be okay with her replacing someone else when Angelina presumably wouldn't want that? Angelina sort of apologizes to Cherry for all the drama and all the competition between them. And Cherry really admired her and was really nice to her that whole time. And they could have done something with that.
I watched the Love It or Leave It tour 3 times. It really gives me inspiration for my shows.
You watched it 3 times?
In fact, there's a few directions they could have gone. They could have, like I said, had her become less vain and numbers focused and media focused, and instead focused on her craft. But no, she didn't really change. They could have had him change, come out of his shell, become a performer, get into the industry, really expand his presence. They could have had him start to accept social media. I mean, it's a weird direction, but they could have done it. It would have appealed to a lot of the audience that they're marketing toward. But the direction that they really should have gone was they really should have leaned into that conflict between her and Cherry. They should have had the two of them work it out between them that the label was causing these problems, that there's more than enough room for both of them, like Angelina says, and maybe they go independent. Maybe they start their own label. Maybe they make a label for women. Young people have heard the conversation and the arguments for why female pop stars don't need to be compared to each other and pitted against each other, and they would have been pretty receptive to that, and it would have been a lot more meaningful than the cheap feminism that we got.
I don't want to be pitted against you. I want to cheer you on. I want to celebrate your wins.
I want to cheer you on too.
Another thing that they could have gone was have her lean more into her Mexican roots, especially since Miguel shares that. But I guess in order to do that, we would have to have a sense of what Miguel's music taste is in the first place, which we don't have other than the fact that he plays piano. So I guess that's kind of out of their league. Anyways, number 6, just some other stuff that I didn't like. Angelina has a really generic personality. She's apparently supposed to have had a hit song where she says home is where the heart is, because she's really deep like that. And it seems like her main goal in life is to be hot, which she's already achieved. So what's she looking for other than a song to write? And then they have this terrible moment where she's walking through the high school where Miguel works and Christina goes, and she's just sort of walking through the hallway, and you see the lockers on the side, and a bunch of teenage boys are just gawking at her because she's just so attractive. I thought she was supposed to be old. Why is she glancing around all happy that these teenage boys are giving her attention? She's supposed to be old. That's either really creepy or she's not that old. Also, every single shot of Angelina with Miguel just, to me, highlighted how much older than her he was, and that just made me uncomfortable. If you saw them randomly, like on the street, and you didn't know them, you would not be like, oh yeah, that's a couple. You'd be like, oh, he's like her uncle. He's her dad. It'd be weird to see them kiss. It was weird to see them kiss. Also, the actor who played Ricardo was plainly the only good actor in this show. I'm sorry. I know that the actor for Miguel has been really good in other things. He just couldn't sell this terribly written character and this terribly written romance. And finally, the song that they actually play at the gala is not good. It's incredibly generic. It's incredibly boring, which sucks because the song that they open the movie with sounds so good. I tried to find if it was like a real song because I thought it was really good. Anyways, Christmas is over. Netflix thinks that you'll watch literally any piece of garbage they put in front of you. And that's all I have. Anyways, if you want to watch this movie, don't. Just watch the Hannah Montana movie. That movie does what this movie thinks it does, and the music is better.